Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming back and watching another video. Today I wanted to do a bit of a language learning update. I have an agenda, which is nice, so that I can stay focused and maybe do a little bit less filler words in between. So what I've got on the agenda today is I just wanted to give a general Dutch and Japanese update. I hope you can't hear all that background noise. Sorry in advance. But yes, I wanted to do a Dutch and Japanese progress update. I also wanted to show my muji planner and how that's been going or not going, so to say. Then I also wanted to show my books that I use, or well, the notebooks that I use for when I'm learning languages. And then I just wanted to brainstorm my potential 2026 planner and what I think would be apropos for my learning goals and my overall vision for language learning for next year. So let's get started with the Dutch and Japanese update. So overall, and I also just put my notebooks here, but overall it's been on and off. So this year I've really dedicated a bit of time to studying Dutch since I live in the Netherlands and I have to do the integration test before August next year or something like that. So I'm studying, I'm basically taking Dutch classes starting from a few weeks from now for B1, so that I can reach the bare minimum at least for my Dutch learning. I do want to go beyond, so I want to be minimum B2 at least and feel very comfortable with speaking, because obviously I live here, my partner is also Dutch, his family speak Dutch, so I think it'd be a good, I think when you live in a country where you don't speak the language, it's basic respect to learn that language. So I do want to get to a level where I'm comfortable with speaking it in my day-to-day and doing my daily things with it. So when I go to the dentist, for example, I always try to begin with Dutch, but then there's a lot of words and vocabulary that I don't know for the dentist, for example. So then I end up saying, oh, sorry, I know we tried really hard with Dutch, but can we speak in English now? Because, I'm getting out of my depth. It's the same with, talking to the bank, as well as my job, which is fully English speaking, but obviously most of the staff or most of my colleagues are Dutch, so the social language is Dutch. So in terms of my overall progress, I've been following Learn Dutch with Kim and her intermediate course. I bought this course maybe 2 years ago and I'm still going through it because I'm so lazy. But I do all of that in this book. And then as for Japanese, I'm very relaxed with Japanese because I think I can comfortably say I'm an N3 level. And my primary concern for Japanese is that I want to be able to keep speaking it. So I've been doing italki lessons on and off throughout the year, and the italki lessons really help me just maintain my speaking fluency, because that's, for me, is one of the most important things. I do want to keep going with reading because I used to play a lot of otome games. If you're not familiar with otome games, they're kind of like dating sims. So if you know my love for Love in Deep Space, this is characterized as an otome game where you have a storyline and there are usually 5 love interests, and then you can play the routes to get through the story, but also, to romance or to fall in love with the characters. So I used to play a lot of these types of games in Japanese, and I also used to read just generally visual novels as well, and read manga in Japanese. So I think comfortably I can read nothing that's too difficult. So I can't read novels I would have great difficulty reading. I don't think I've ever completed a novel, like a proper one, like Natsume Soseki, for example. I have not gone through one, but I've read a lot of manga because it's much more digestible in bite-sized pieces, and it's a lot more casual, and visual novels as well, which you could say are books, like light novels or novels, but I think because I really enjoy playing visual novels, it's a lot easier for me to read, if that makes sense, as opposed to reading full-on novels. I think because pictures, there's CGs and stuff when you play visual novels, so it really helps with the overall understanding, because it gives a lot of context, and it's also usually voice acted as well, depending on the visual novel. But yeah, which is why I think for me personally, I really only immerse in media that I enjoy and I really like, so which is why I've not really delved into novels. I have read some light novels, like some light novels based on animes that I really liked, like Oregairu. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with it, but I did read the light novel for that briefly. I did not finish it or complete it. But yeah, anyway, so with Japanese, it's like mama, it's so I dip in and out with it, but I try to keep consistent, so I'm always in some form either doing grammatical exercises or doing italki classes. So in terms of the actual planner, so if you've watched my previous videos, you probably saw that I'm very in and out with the planner now. So to be honest with you, I don't think I've used it in the past 2 months, 3 months, because we're in August. Oh my gosh, time flies. So I was using this monthly section as a way to put in, so it started off with, wow, I was really ambitious. So in the beginning, I'd say I have a focus language, it'd be Dutch, my passive learning language, Japanese, and then I'd have monthly goals. And all of these sentences are sentences that I've found from Closemaster, or what I hear in person, or when I am watching something and I'm not familiar with it, but it sounds like something, like a phrase that would be used frequently or commonly. I would write it down here so that I can look back and be like, oh yeah, this sentence. And I've been kind of good with it for the first, I'd say, yeah, okay, for the first quarter of the year, and then it really fell off, and then you can tell when I got a job, basically, and when I was unemployed. So that's how I was intending or wanted to use the monthly section. And I think going forward, maybe I don't need this type of monthly section. So in the weeks, I might have to blur things out, because I don't know if I'm talking about getting a job, or because I do mention what job I'm going to get. So yeah, I was very ambitious. So at this point, I guess in January, February, sorry, cars in the background going crazy. I had ambitions, or I was ambitious, and I was actually doing it because I didn't have anything else going on in my life. So I would have everything that I ritually do or habitually do during the week. So I tried to do Closemaster in Dutch every single day. I wanted to watch the Dutch news every single day. Yeah, I think those were in the very minimum. I did those every single day. And then at some point I wanted to keep doing a writing prompt, like once a week. I made a list of prompts here in the back. Yes. So these were just a bunch I found online, and then some I just made up. So I did not end up really doing this. I feel like it's a good exercise though, and it's worth doing it every single week. It's only once a week, and the prompt is kind of casual. So some of them are like, write a self-introduction, what are your hobbies, but then some of them are like, describe a cultural tradition or a practice, something that might require a bit more thinking, or a bit more vocabulary and a higher level maybe. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do, which I had done for a bit, but I did not end up doing it. I think I stopped after like March or something, and then here I just had like a rolling to do, but it was more of guidance because I didn't want to commit to doing all of this, you know, every single week. So I'd have things like watching this one show that I really like on Dutch TV, speaking for 10 minutes, watching or listening to a new podcast episode, things like that. And I'd also do, oh yeah, so this is the writing prompt for this week, I guess, which is translate a favorite recipe. And this one was muji, which is like the side dish, the cucumber side dish, the Korean one. And I really like that. I make it pretty often when I'm at home. So yeah, I made a recipe for that. Yeah, and it felt kind of consistent like this. Yeah. So yeah, I would also fix myself. So I think one thing in retrospect is that I think it's not good to have this extra page to put to put actual language learning things in here. For example, like all of the writing prompts that I was doing, because it separates. So I have this, which is my Dutch learning book, and it kind of was like I was kind of staying in here and not really using this to write my Dutch things. It's also almost finished, but I'll get to it in a bit. Yeah, so it felt really out of balance that way for writing all of my things that I learned in the language in here. I don't want to show when I get a job. Yeah. Okay, so there's this other thing that I used to participate in and I haven't done in a while, which is called mini immersion, the mini immersion weekend. So one language learning technique or approach to language learning is pure immersion, and I really like this method, but for me I really have to love the language. So Japanese for me is super easy to do a full-blown, you know, immersion because I love watching anime, listening to Japanese music. A lot of my interests are very rooted in Japanese culture. Like I love Japanese food and I like cooking. Yeah, I like cooking Japanese food, etc., etc. So a lot of my interests are already within the cultural sphere of Japanese. So it's a lot easier to immerse yourself. But with Dutch, not so much. And I think what's difficult is, even though I live in the Netherlands, I live in Amsterdam. And Amsterdam is very much a non-Dutch speaking city. The area where I live in has much less expat, much less, sorry, even my English is failing, has much less expats. But I still find myself around a lot of English speaking people and not really immersed environmentally in Dutch. And also Dutch media for me is super dry in the sense that I don't really like anything content wise. I do watch some YouTube vloggers like Emma Tobel, for example. She owns a bookstore in Rotterdam, and she makes really nice videos. She's just like a booktuber vlogger basically, who's also a bookshop owner. So I really like her content, but I find generally like a lot of Dutch content doesn't really appeal to me. There's some Dutch TV shows that I like Koning Deens van Waarde. I'm sorry if I butcher the pronunciation. But it's one of those like investigative shows, and I watch the episodes where they cover a theme or a topic that I'm really interested in. So I've watched one about like jasmine rice, one about fish sauce, etc. So That's the only time I really find myself interested in Dutch. I think if I were to be fully honest, I am neutral about Dutch as a language. It's a bit similar to English, which really helps. So a lot of the words might be similar. So sometimes when I'm unsure of a word in Dutch, I kind of try it out in English and hope for the best. Especially for a lot of nouns. Yeah, but yeah, so with Dutch, it's very much like I'm doing it mostly because I have to and because I want to speak with my partner in Dutch. He's very fluent in English, of course, and not in the Donglish sense, not in the Dutch fluent in English sense, since he grew up in the Caribbean, so he grew up speaking English. So it's native speaker level, essentially, and we are able to communicate just as we both are as native English speakers. So for him, he doesn't get tired of speaking English, which is something I have with some of my Dutch friends. Like I know for sure they're always like, oh my gosh, my brain gets tired after speaking English for the whole day, you know? But that's not the case with my partner. So anyway, that's that with Dutch and how I feel overall about this planner, because I've used a smaller version of this. I think last year I used the mini. I don't remember what size it was, but it was like this big. It felt a lot more manageable. But I think the thing with language learning is that, at least for me, I go very in and out, especially since I'm learning two languages, or I'm learning Dutch and I'm trying to stay at my level with Japanese. I do want to increase my Japanese for sure, but it's really on the back burner for now while I really focus on Dutch. And I say really focus on Dutch, but I'm also being very lazy with Dutch. But one thing I did so in the Muji Weeks planner, there's a few empty pages at the back for you to write whatever you want. Okay, I had like a language learning. Oh, it's gone. It has to be here somewhere. Okay, sorry, language resources, but it's all the languages that I kind of wanted to touch this year, but probably not ever gonna get to it this year, to be honest. Once I reach B1, I think I might think of picking up a new language. So the top ones are the ones I keep consistent with. So I included Tagalog because I don't speak Tagalog here, even though it's technically my mother language. And it's very difficult for me even now. So I just came back from a trip to the Philippines, and honestly, I could tell my Tagalog has become so terrible because I never speak it. And I've been living in the Netherlands for 3 years, almost 3 years. I think it's like 2.5 now. Yeah, 2.5 years. And I'm pretty sure I can, like two handful numbers of times I can recall that I've spoken Tagalog like while living here. And I think both times are probably when I went to like the Sari Sari store and when I went to the Independence Day Festival. So I'm really not speaking it at all, and and I think it was already in a precarious position growing up in Australia in a bilingual household. I definitely was in a lot of situations where I spoke and I defaulted to English, or like when I speak Taglish, it's like 60% English, 40% Tagalog, you know. So this year I was taking Tagalog classes, which I know for many native Filipino or native Tagalog speakers, it sounds insane to take language classes in your mother language, but I really don't want to lose the fluency that I have. And honestly, I speak more Japanese than I do Tagalog, and I feel actually much more comfortable speaking Japanese than I do Tagalog. So I don't know, that probably says something about me and my lack of speaking ability in my mother tongue. But anyway, I also wanted to touch Spanish, Korean. I think for Korean, for me, it's like I can pick it up whenever, because I've already learned some when I lived in Seoul, because I studied there at Yonsei University for a while, and I also want to learn or Vietnamese. Sorry, I love the way Viet sounds, and then I have Cantonese here. Very similar reasons why I want to learn these languages. Growing up, I ate a lot of Cantonese Chinese food, and I think Cantonese has a much more vibrant sound. Like, it sounds crazy and much more interesting to me vocally or orally than Mandarin Chinese. And I feel like knowing Japanese is a good halfway between like learning Korean and then learning, you know, like a Chinese language. I know that it's not like completely one-to-one, but I feel like also having kanji knowledge helps a lot. And then with Viet, I just love Viet food, and I really like Vietnamese music. So this year I've really been into Vina House. If you don't know what Vina House is, it's just Vietnamese house music, and I love it. I genuinely, if I'm not listening to like P-pop, Filipino pop, I'm listening to Vina House. To be honest, I'm only listening to one of two things, that or like K-pop, but that's just a given. But yeah, so that's how I've been was using my Muji planner. And I realized I'm at 22 minutes already, and this is quite chatty, but I can briefly just go over my books. So I'll start with Dutch first. So with Dutch, there's a lot, and this book started in 2023. It's already 2025, and I'm almost finished. I think I only have a few pages left. Yeah, to go. So this book records my entire Dutch journey, basically. So including when I took Dutch class. So I took Dutch class at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam, and I did the A2 class, and it was crazy because I think the Dutch class was twice a week or something, and I was so stressed because it was 5 hours of Dutch, and Dutch to me is crazy. Like, grammatically, I know it's just more practice over time, but I'm still making very beginner mistakes. I think it's because I did not do any beginner class. I've been self-taught, and I entered A2 being completely self-taught. So there are some things that I might have just missed foundationally. But yeah, so the way that I've done my Dutch learning is I'm a very textbook-based person, or an activity-based person. I really can only learn if there's activities for me to do, because I think that's how you test your knowledge, right? So when there's textbook, it feels very focused, and I'm like, okay, if I follow this content, I'll learn this thing. So it's very, very logical. And it's been like that for my Dutch learning. The pen that I use goes all over the place. So I think this is just like the Uniball one. Or is it the Uniball one? The Uni Jetstream. Like, this is the Jetstream. This is like a fatter ballpoint that I don't remember using. I'm pretty sure this is fountain pen. Like, it was really whatever my mood was. Yeah, and I still also have problems between knowing whether I use hebben or zijn, because in Dutch it changes depending as well, especially when it's in the past tense, whether to use hebben or zijn. But yeah, so I feel really accomplished when I look through this book because it's quite full, and I've done a lot of exercises and learning, and I know I kind of underestimate myself, because I know a lot of Dutch, but I don't feel super confident when I'm speaking it. But this is, yeah. This I think all of this is just inversion or inversie in Dutch. This really, I struggle with inversion a lot, because I always have to remember which words to use. Well, when I use certain words, it might require an inversion. So when you say, there's two ways to say because in Dutch. So you can say want or omdat. And if you use want, you can do like two head sentences, or like head clauses, main clauses. If you use want, like the first version of because, but if you use the second version of because, you have to do an inversion on the second. Like it doesn't become, it's not a main clause plus main clause, it becomes a main clause plus what's bijzin in English, like the secondary sentence, like the complementary sentence. Oh, what is that in English? Like the second clause. Yeah, sorry, I don't remember the exact English phrasing of it, but you have to do inversion on that second clause after the main one. And that really trips me up, especially when I'm speaking live, because I have to think about it a little bit. Yeah, so that's how I also do italki, not so much for Dutch, because I can get the italki for free by speaking to my partner. He's just a lot more harsh and strict about it. Yeah, that's what it's been like. And I think when I finish this, I'm going to move into something just slightly bigger, because I think it was a bit too skinny. This book was a bit too skinny. So that's that on Dutch. So my approach for Japanese is different. So this is a Leuchtturm. Oh, sorry. My Dutch one is an MD. They do not make this size anymore. It's discontinued, by the way. Because I don't remember the size. And it doesn't say here. Yeah, but no, they don't make this size anymore. So even if I wanted to repeat it, I couldn't. Yeah, this is the Leuchtturm. I don't know the sizes of anything. It originally was supposed to be a commonplace book, so you could see that I had a key here and I don't even use it. And I only had one entry in it, and it was about R.F. Kuang. Amazing writer that I really look up to, by the way. But yeah, and then I started using it for Japanese. So my approach to it was basically, I was doing wanikani last year, but obviously I was starting from zero, so I was going through it, and I would always just write down kanji that I forgot. And even though it was super common, like kayo, like to commute, I forget that one just because I never use that word, or like I don't really see it being used because I'm usually reading like a visual novel or something, like, and it's usually fantasy or whatever. But you know, things like that. So I would always write some sample sentences and like different ways that you can use the verb. But there's also like regular nouns and stuff here. And I say I'm N3, but if you know Japanese, you can probably see a lot of very beginner sentences in here. I think what's difficult about Japanese is when you keep going, I feel like you sometimes just forget the fundamentals. So when someone asks like, how do you say like very basic sentence like XYZ, and you're like, yeah, good question. Like questioning my fluency, by the way. Yeah, so I do a lot of kanji review, and I always write down the meaning. If I'm not always write. Yeah, even if I am sure, I still write the meaning anyway, and I always do sample sentences and ways you can use the verb. Yeah, and I also, so I was resuming italki lessons, and I was also just writing like daily entrances. Yeah, so you can see here when I do italki, I also write down a lot of the notes. So that's cool. Yeah, it's very much not filled because this is only when I'm doing dedicated study to Japanese. So every other time, like when I'm reading manga or something, I'm not really writing down what I don't know. Like I just keep reading, which is kind of part of the immersion method. It's just you're always consuming the media, and you can kind of vary your approach. Like you can, I don't remember the exact terminology, but before you start a piece of media, like if I want to read a new manga, for example, I always decide whether or not if I'm going to do like a deep learning dive into it, or if I'm just reading it for, you know, the immersion. So it's usually the latter, but sometimes I read things for the purpose of deep learning them. So like every time, say every time you don't know a word, you're writing it down, you're like sentence mining it, or you're word mining it, so that you learn everything that you don't know, like in the text. But obviously you can take varied approaches. Like it doesn't have to be completely like every word you don't know. You could be like, one thing that I tend to do is if I see the word once and I don't know it, I usually skip it. But if I see it enough times, if it's recurring enough, then I look it up. So that's also a different kind of approach. But it's really just your personal preference and how much more fluent you want to be, or how hard you want to dedicate to study, I guess. So yeah, there's not much to show here. It's mostly just me writing random crap or random stuff, and then italki things. So I'm just writing it there. So with that in mind, yes, I want to brainstorm what I want for a future planner. So I think I wanted to write it down here with a pen. So what I don't want, I guess. I don't want to use the same muji planner because I don't like the size. Like I think now it's a bit too big. Not a big size. I also don't want something with an empty page next to the week. I do want to keep it as a weekly, so I don't want some. Maybe I should have wrote what I do like or what I do want. Not a big size. No extra space on the week page, on the weekly pages. Honestly, I think that's maybe no need for a monthly view. Sorry, we don't live next to a highway, but we live next to a busy road, and there's usually cars speeding down there. What I would like, does that look like wood? I would like something smaller. Just a weekly view. Yeah, honestly, I'm not really looking for much. Like, if I think about it, so I have there are those ones that are like this. Oh my god, I don't know if I'm doing it correctly. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's like Saturday, Sunday, and this is the layout, and so you can just write things, and that's the weekly view. This is very poor representation of it. Or I could have it the vertical way, the horizontal way, where it's like this. Oh my god, I have no, like, is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday? Notes. I think the weekly, the TN passport is like this, and I can get the passport size might be a good size actually, because I do not want anything bigger than this, I guess, because I'm not gonna be writing much. Like I'm really gonna write like what I did, so like close master, blah blah blah, kanji, and I really only want to track like the reason why I want to keep a planner. The only reason why I want to keep a planner is because I like seeing what I've done in the language, and it's, I mean, I toggle track every day my language learning, so in a way I'm already tracking what I'm doing, but I like the feel and the analogness of having a planner. And even though I've not really been using my one for the past few months, I like to believe that if it was smaller, I'd feel less intimidated to actually use it. And if I'm able to slot it in to my traveler's cover, then I think I'd also use it a bit more, since I kind of keep my journal or my language planner at my desk. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe a TN passport, or maybe like I'll have to look. I might go into MISC, because I do know they have planners with this kind of design, so I'd like to have a look and maybe test it out, because I think something maybe with a bit more space, but I don't know if they've got anything in this size, because it might be too small. But yeah, so I think overall that was all of my thoughts and a general update about my language learning. It's quite chatty. I hope that this was informative for you. So if you're someone who's learning a language, that maybe my process has helped a bit in how you can language learn or language plan, I guess. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.